We're checking out Sony's latest Xperia devices. These are mid-range and budget handsets, and we'll go in order. This is the more higher-end device. It's the Xperia XA2, this XA2 Ultra, and this middle one right here is the XA2, and we have a more budget device, the L2. So let's take a look at each of them quickly. This XA2 Ultra has a 6-inch screen. It's 1080p resolution. First, before we dive into the specs or anything like that, let's just take a look. And Sony has said that they have minimized the bezels on the top and bottom, so you're getting a slightly more modernized look from what we traditionally see in Sony phones. It's not much, but it is certainly visible. It's a bit of a 2.5D curved glass at the edges here, so it feels nice in the hand, and you can see the edges, they've really minimized the bezels there, so you're getting as much of a modern redesign as Sony can provide for now. More may be coming later with its more flagship lineups later this year. On the back, the biggest change that any Xperia fan will notice immediately is the rear fingerprint sensor. Sony has traditionally put fingerprint sensors right over here, and they've actually not activated them in the US, so you'll be happy to learn that this fingerprint sensor will work in the US. The other coolest thing about this phone, I think, is the fact that you can see two front-facing cameras. One is 8 megapixels and it's a wide-angle lens, so that means you can capture more people in a selfie. This one is a 16 megapixel optically image stabilized camera, which means it helps eliminate the blur when you're taking a selfie, and of course it'll provide more detail. But the other cool thing is this little flash here. It's not just an average LED flash, it's this thing called slow sync, if I'm correct, and that basically allows to illuminate not just you. So if I'm at a nightclub and I want to take a picture of myself and the background, or I'm in this little tiny house and I want to take a selfie of me as well as the background, it doesn't just illuminate me, it illuminates me as well as the background, so you get that sense of, yes, I'm here doing something really cool. We can actually check that out here. So you can see immediately if I'm taking a selfie, this is the wide angle mode, and this obviously is a more traditional selfie that most people will be aware of. And then of course if I wanted to grab, say, me and Andy, who's helping me film this, you can get more people. And let's give a try to the slow sync. Let's try that.
Yeah, sometimes when you get something.
Oh, turned it off. And the flash is off. Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell. We can do a better demo later, but this does illuminate me, and you can definitely see plenty of the background, and I feel like in traditional phones that might not necessarily be the case. But anyway, that's more or less the highlights of the XA2 Ultra. Other specs are, it has 4 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of storage, or 64 gigs of storage, full HD 1080p screen, and as well as a 3580 milliamp hour battery, USB Type-C charger. You can see a bottom firing speaker over here. And in general, it'll come with 3 different colors, I believe: a gray, silver, a bluish version, and this gold fingerprint sensor. The power button is a little odd design. It says just a circle right there, and you have a dedicated camera shutter button to take some photos. Of course, still have the headphone jack right there. And this phone is expected to come out in January or early February, and we don't know pricing yet, but it is sort of a mid-range phone. And so this is the Xperia XA2. It's very similar to the XA2 Ultra, except it's noticeably smaller. It's a 5.2-inch screen, 1080p display, and other than that, you can see the design is really similar. Same got that fingerprint sensor over here. Only a single lens camera on the back, power button, dedicated camera button, and again that minimized bezels on the top and bottom. There's no 2 front-facing cameras, there's just one, but this one is an 8 megapixel wide-angle camera, so you can definitely get more people in the shots. And it runs Android 8.0 Oreo like the XA2 Ultra, as well as has a Snapdragon 630 processor, so you're getting fairly quick performance. And apart from that, the differences are again slight in terms of size. 3,300 milliamp hour battery. It does have 3 gigs of RAM instead of 4 gigs of RAM, and it does only have 32 gigs of storage. But other than that, they're pretty similar devices. It doesn't have that fancy slow sync technology that you saw on the XA2 Ultra. Again, the real difference here is, or the main focus here is the 8 megapixel wide angle camera, and this is actually a 23 megapixel camera that just offers a lot of detail, and we'll have to definitely try it out to see how well it performs. But that again, let's jump into the camera, and it's a rather dull shot.
You need to turn that brightness down. I can't see it. Wait a sec. Okay.
That had the flash on. It captures it pretty quickly, and it's in a pretty dark room. It's not bad, but again, we'll have to do more testing to see. Of course, you can see Google Assistant on board, like most Android devices these days, and again, this is also coming out late January, early February. Not sure what price is, but it'll be cheaper than the XA2 Ultra. And so this is more of the budget device. This is the Xperia L2, and it's you know, kind of similar to the XA2, except as those specifications are much lower. 720 screen, it's a 5.5 inch display, but again, you get those same features like, again, no camera shutter button here, but power button is slightly different, volume rocker. You do get a fingerprint sensor. It is a lot chunkier, and the back is a little curved actually, so it kind of feels a little more ergonomic, but it does feel very chunky. And but otherwise the design is fairly similar. Of course, you can see the side edges here. There's some bezel that you can see, slightly minimized edges at the top and bottom, but again, 720p screen, 8 megapixel front camera, and I believe a 13 megapixel rear camera. 3,300 milliamp hour battery, and it's we're not sure what the processor is. It's a 1.5 gigahertz processor, and I believe 3 gigs of RAM. So this one is obviously less exciting than the other two, but still it's going to be filling a much less expensive, it's probably going to be, well, we don't know yet, but it's definitely a budget phone, and it'll also come out sometime in January or early February. So that's all of Sony's Xperia launch devices at CES 2018. Again, this is their mid-range and budget lineup. So we have the Xperia XA2 Ultra, Xperia XA2, and the Xperia L2. And we'll definitely be checking these devices out later on when they're out. And thanks for watching.